Now we lie. Now we lie.
All right. This is a funny story I got to share with you. We had an amazing intro. We were bonding.
Amazing intro.
We were flowing. We had all kinds of stories. But guess who didn't press the live button? So we are now live. And
you don't got to go back over the whole intro.
There's a first time for everything. So you know what?
Just tell the people who you are, and I'll tell them who we are. Oh, we got... Okay, then. I know Poe Ronald backstage like, what's going on?
Ronald already got his passport and went to another country. We're going to catch him after his flight back in. This is a dance from back in the day. You ready?
Yep.
I don't share that with everybody.
I'm supposed to say, welcome to Moving Forward Podcast.
Oh, I got to start the whole thing all over again. Oh, Lord. Here
Made
we go.
for the smooth.
Here we go.
And seasoned adults. With stories are triumph. Here at Moving Forward, we're not looking behind because we are tackling everything ahead.
Now, why are you trying to give us a sermon? Like, but that's why you can't have a preacher on the show, because you know you're going to get a sermon in there somewhere, a sermon and a hoop and all the rest, right?
I mean, you set the tone. I just felt like we was listening to the Quiet Storm.
Oh my God, Quiet Storm. Wait. See, I told you got some New Jersey up in you. You got some of you might be playing.
The Quiet Storm played everywhere.
Did it really? Are you serious? I didn't know that. I thought it was just like a New York, New Jersey thing.
Nope.
Wow. Okay.
Uh-huh. So because we live, can you give people a quick introduction of who you are, about your organization, before we bring on Mr. Ronald?
Yes, we will go. Look, I told you, got a preacher in here taking over. So
look.
Just really quickly, welcome to the Moving Forward Podcast, where... I'm sorry?
No, I had to give a shout out to the Moving Forward Podcast.
Oh, I like that. Where awareness meets action and listening can change everything. There are stories of people who dared to look deeper, who challenged confirmation bias, broke through misdiagnosis, and refused to accept. That's just how it is. Because sometimes what saves lives isn't another test or procedure. It's an agile listener, someone who pauses, questions, and truly hears. Together, they uncovered truth, rebuilt trust, and redefined healing, proving that awareness and empathy are the most powerful tools we have. This is where we uncover, empower, and evolve. I'm sorry.
Awesome job.
Thank you. And so now I'm going to talk about my amazing co-host, and you guys missed it earlier because I forgot to press the live button.
And you don't even have to do the long bio. I take it. I'm just J. Dwayne Garnett, author and founder of Love is a Parable, where we teach individuals how values influence their decision making. My latest book, Can I Just Write, talks about several different things from fatherhood, misandry, love, healing, grief, and loss. We are spending this actually yesterday was 13 weeks in the top 100 for motivational and inspirational poetry. So I'm excited about what it's doing for people. My oldest reader is 84. My youngest one is 17. So I am excited about that. But I'm most excited, KJ, about Mr. Ronald, who's coming on.
Yes. Do you want to introduce Ronald for us then?
Nope, you got it. Because I just got access. Look, I just got access to the questions. So Mr. Ronald helped me out with that. So you can definitely take it away with because I just can't wait to hear his story.
Yes, it's a very powerful story. So here we go. Today's guest is someone whose story embodies resilience and redemption. Ronald McCray grew up in a big city where the community was close-knit, but life behind closed doors was painful or had painful secrets. As a child, Ronald endured rape and molestation, or sometimes we just say abuse, at the hands of family members. Those experiences left deep scars, depression, anxiety, thoughts, suicidal thoughts, distrust, chronic pain, and a broken sense of self. But Ronald's story doesn't end there. On October 18th, 2009, he had a life changing encounter that transformed his life and set him on a path of healing and freedom. Raised by a strong single mother of four boys and influenced by a father who fought against addiction, Ronald developed a resilience that shaped who he is today. Both sides of his family were filled with creative geniuses, and Ronald carries that same legacy forward. Every gift, every talent he's been given is used to connect with humanity, uplift people, and glorify God. Now, Ronald is a writer, speaker, and former radio personality whose work has been featured on the Christian Post, the 700 Club, CBN News, Charisma News, and more. He, most importantly, Ronald's ministry helps people around the world who are struggling in silence find the courage to speak up and advance self-awareness. His work helps families and friends learn how to respond with the right kind of support. He is also a proud parent of his son, Alexander. This is a conversation about pain, healing, resilience, faith, and the power of transformation. Okay, here we go.
Hello, y'all.
Yeah, you did it.
Hey, how are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey, Ronald.
Hey, what's up, Jay Dwayne? Let me say, hearing the bios are so uncomfortable. It's like I was laughing at you, Jay. Like, what are you supposed to do when somebody's like talking about your life? You're just kind of like looking around.
And it's even worse in person when they're about to bring you up and you're like, it's called the awkward Ashley Simpson dance. You remember that when she when the tape skipped, so she didn't know what to do, so she just started dancing. That's what oh, that's it.
Good. And Kelly, you are so beautiful. I didn't get a chance to tell you that earlier, but I just want
Thank you. Oh my God, I'm taking that. I'm taking that, and I'm running Roadrunner beep beep. Just so you don't try to take it back. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, welcome. This has been going on. So we have been talking since July, trying to get together this show. But Ronald is an extremely busy man. So of course, it took us a little bit longer than expected to connect. And we have an amazing co-host to hear Ronald's story. And Ronald, as I said in the first intro, where I forgot to press live or go live with it, is that right now a lot of youth are going through challenges, and their voices they're speaking up, because as a teacher, I found a lot of my kids were speaking up, but people aren't hearing them. And so what I really wanted to do was go through your story of just, you're the average boy next door. You're the little kid next door, how you lost your voice and how you found your voice again. Because there are people out here today, there are young adults out here that just want to be heard. They just want to be validated. They just want to find a way to move forward. And for those people who are supporting them, what does good help look like? Like, how do I help in a constructive way? Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about what is this big city or city? You were trying to be a little secretive with me. I was like, okay, now where is it?
Well, first, before I answer the question, if anybody's wondering, like, why is his hair white? I was rushing and washing my hair, and there's conditioner that's still in my hair. It looks like
I didn't even see it. I didn't even see it.
It looks like powder is on the top of my head. It looks so crazy. But okay, back to the interview now.
I didn't see it either, but now I can't unsee it. Thanks, right. Ronald.
It's terrible. It's so bad.
From your setup, it looked like you was about to say, "I am an angel," because it's like a halo over your head,
light behind you and everything.
Right. So just stay there. You're good.
Okay. So I am from. Well, I was raised in Alexandria, Virginia. For the first maybe 11 years of my life, and then after that, I moved to Maryland to Capitol Heights. So yeah.
So I used to live in Alexandria, Virginia.
Where?
I mean, I didn't live in. Sorry. I lived in Fort Washington, but I was working in Alexandria at the Sheridan Suites, Old Town.
Okay.
So yeah, so I knew a little bit about Alexandria.
Mhm.
So you grew up in this city, and you said basically everybody kind of knew one another. You knew the people within your surroundings.
Surroundings, yeah. Like when we lived in Alexandria, the people who lived in our immediate like circle, like the houses across the street from us, the houses on the side of us, you knew your neighbors, and the kids will play outside together, and so that's and the same thing when we moved to Maryland. Just you get to know your neighbors, and there's you got kids who have a lot of energy and they want to be outside and play, and that's what we did. So
Do you think? Do you think your childhood was like the normal childhood, like everybody else? Things didn't seem different in any way.
so that to me, that is hard to say like what normal is. Everybody's norm is different. um i would say like I did all the things that the kids in the neighborhoods did. Like we would throw eggs at people's doors and run.
You're
And
the one. I recognize your hair now.
bike riding, playing sports, um, out late at night. Like I was just, I enjoyed life as a kid for the most part until things just kind of changed my life
How did
forever. Yeah.
how did they change?
I think it changed when I think I started to realize that I was different from other boys. Like I felt it internally, but people saw something in me too, and it became like I became like a target for bullying. Like I felt like I was more comfortable with the girls than boys. Um, like I was always really like artsy. Although I could play sports and I did, I flourished in the arts, theater, gymnastics. I was the one doing somersaults on the balance beam in all the things, and singing and writing poetry. But unfortunately, like that type of creativity wasn't celebrated when it came to boys. Boys were encouraged to be like to roughhouse and to play contact sports. I didn't like contact sports. You better not hit me or it was going to be a fight. That just wasn't me. And, even my dad, like God rest his soul, he wanted me to be the quarterback's quarterback playing football. And I despised it. I hated playing football. Like the reason why I hate football today is because that man tried to force it down my throat to play it. And then in addition to that, when I was 6, I started to experience and I wouldn't have called it sexual abuse then. I didn't know what sexual abuse was, didn't have language for it. I just knew that somebody was touching me in a way that made me uncomfortable and made me feel unsafe and introduced feelings that I had never felt before, never should have felt as a 6-year-old. And so I like to define, or like when I share my story, that was like the crisis moment of my life. Um, like now we're talking about matters of identity. Like, who am I? Why are these people calling me gay and sissy? Why are they doing this to me? And in the bio, you mentioned that it was like family who sexually abused me. And it was, but it was friends too that sexually abused me. And so I was always the one that the experimentation was being experimented on. And I'm 6, and in a weird sense, it and I've never thought about this before, and I've never said this before, but in a weird sense, being the subject of the abuse from the multiple different people who abused me, there was a sense of um, like all the attention was on me. And as a 6-year-old, that attention kind of felt good, but not
Good.
knowing that I was being taken advantage of. So I stopped there.
So when you What made you think that it was bad, or when did you start to see something different? Like, what changed your perspective from, oh my goodness, I'm getting all this good attention, to there could be something different? And did you think that other young boys were experiencing the same thing, or did you think that you were an anomaly?
I never thought in that context. Like the first time that it happened, I have an older male relative and two of his friends. They were like 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years older than me, and they turned on some porn. The first time I had ever seen pornography, and before I knew it, they were like reenacting what the men did to the women on me. Um, and the reason why like it was so conflicting is because like if because of the family member that was present, if something was happening that was not safe, I believed that that relative would have protected me. So in my small 6-year-old mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, this must be okay. Until I remember having a feeling of immense like guilt and like shame. And I don't recall ever feeling that before having that experience. And I remember running to the bathroom and just like rubbing myself or scrubbing myself with a wash rag. But it was like, it was more than just like trying to wash off their scent, but it was like, I feel that there is a stain in my soul. And I was like rigorously like scrubbing and crying. And like, I remember saying, God, forgive me. And that tells me that I accepted blame at 6 years old. Uh, it's the craziest thing. And I carried that guilt, that shame, that accepted blame for those actions for so many years. And so I couldn't tell you at 6 years old that I was being violated, but my body told me that something was wrong.
Did you tell anybody else at that time?
No, I was told not to tell anybody. Like, you better not tell anybody.
If you told somebody, what would happen?
Um, well, I will say I was really afraid of this relative. He had a terrible temper,
I was gonna
and
say.
I feared that if I said something, that he would hurt me. One of the times where he forced me to perform oral sex on two other relatives at knife point with a knife to my throat.
Mm.
I was 6 years old. And so imagine this, and there are other things that he did to me too. Like I have a burn mark on my chest to this day because he burned me with a lighter. There, like, I have stories of how abusive he was to me, and so I was afraid that if I said something that something would happen to me.
Did he threaten just you, or did he threaten family members as well? Like sometimes they'll say, if you say something, I'll harm your mom, I'll harm your cat, I'll harm your dog. It was just you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And did anybody see anything different in you? Like, do you think your persona changed in any way afterwards?
The only like since I started sharing my story years ago, a cousin of mine, she was a third cousin, who's now deceased. She said there was a period where I became like withdrawn from family, like when we would have family events, like I wouldn't want to come around anymore. And she said she never understood why, but she said after hearing my story, she understood. Outside of that, I don't know. Nobody else has commented on like really noticing anything different. I was like naturally, I was a very like shy, reserved, maybe even timid kid, and so I don't know what out of the norm for me would have been unless you really knew me as a kid. Like my cousins, they knew me really well, and so I remember I
That's
can't.
Aaron and Candace.
My cousins, they're like a brother and sister to me. And at some point I told them, but I don't remember when I told them. So yeah.
One of the trickiest things they say, and I'm going to ask Dwayne to contribute on this part. One of the trickiest things they say with regards to sexual assault is that it blends in. Like it's not like one day you're happy, the next day you're sad. What happens is the self-blame starts to set in, and you start to embrace different norms, right? So you don't all of a sudden say, this bad thing happened, and it's not like PTSD where you have the flashbacks and the nightmares and that kind of stuff. It's very gradual, it's very unexpected. So it's harder sometimes to unravel and detect when change happens along the way.
And I can say, like, just observations of myself, like just looking back, I remember being very, I had a very distrusting of men. I always, a fear developed in me that the males wanted something as a result of getting close to me. I was very rebellious when it came to male leadership. Um,
Wow.
I often challenged male leadership. Like I was the one that would cuss my teacher out in front of the class.
What would it be? Would it be triggered? Would it be provoked? Or would you just like, would they do something to make you do that? Or would the anger just be there when you walk in the class?
No, I think it was more so when a male teacher tried to exercise a level of dominance or authority over me. Because, like, as an adult, I would imagine that it was triggering because a type of dominance was used on me when I was abused. And so subconsciously, I think there was a connecting point. And I started to feel like men were the enemy. I didn't believe that any man had anything good in mind for me.
They say that rape is not about love or any type of affection. Rape is really and truly about dominance, intimidation, degradation, like destroying somebody else so that they can feel better about themselves, right? So it's somebody who has a potentially weaker self-perception, right? And they feel like they don't have control over the individual, or they don't have control over the environment. So what they do is they are abusive, aggressive, and they rape. I know when I worked with Wake County Interact, one of the big things that we found is if a man was not happy with his job, it actually increased the level of domestic violence, or the tendency for domestic violence. That and alcohol were two major contributors.
Well, brother, thank you first of all for sharing your story. And we talked offline. I was a victim of sexual abuse as well. And it's always interesting hearing stories and not one, hearing the story, but two, not making that story your story. Because there's certain parts of it that can be triggering, but then there's a certain level of liberation, right? That comes from hearing other people share their story. So my question with you, you talked about that you knew you were different, and you talked about the normalization of this abuse at that time. I'm just curious to know, when did you find the labels for it? Meaning, when did you say, you know what, I was abused, but this is not me. So I need to seek healing. So when did the separation from the normalization of abuse happen for you, where you started your journey towards healing? Can you talk us through that moment?
So that's a really good question. I don't think I realized the need for healing per se until I was like 22, 23, if not later. Like, because I remember when God told me to write my story, and that he wanted me to write a book.
How did he tell you to write your story?
So I was washing dishes. This was at my first apartment. And like, I spent a lot of time in prayer, like a lot of time. Like, I was a single man then. I ain't had no kids, none of the things. I had all the time in the world to do what Ronald wanted to do. And so I would like literally spend a lot of my weekends just reading the Bible and from sun up to sundown. Um, and like I remember one of my prayers was like, God, what do you like? What's your purpose for me? Like I've like left the way that I lived my life when I was 16 as a gay identified teen. Um, to the age of 22. And I surrendered everything to him. And I was like, why did you call me to leave everything that I formerly knew and identified and associated with? Like, what's my purpose? And I don't remember what I prayed that prayer pretty consistently, but I was washing the dishes and he spoke to me and he said, can I use you? And I responded like I remember it like it was yesterday. I actually talk about it in my book that I wrote. Um, and I was like, of course you can. He was like, but it will involve revealing the guilt and shame of your past. Um, and that's all he said. I didn't know what he meant by that. And then progressively over time, he started to deal with me about writing a book. And so I started the first version of my book. It's an autobiography. I wrote out everything that I could remember in painstaking detail. I included names, everything that I felt in a moment, what I remember seeing and what I remember hearing, and all the things, every detail that my brain could fathom, I wrote. And as I was writing, like I would have breakdowns. Like it is an interesting experience when you know something that you've been through, but to see it on paper, there's an impact um, that really allows you as the person who's had the experience to kind of objectively see what this looks like, what this feels like. Like if I were to give you a manuscript of my life, you as the reader would have so many different feelings reading about my story. And so it was like I was able to step outside of myself and say, oh my God, I don't know how I am sane. I don't know how I didn't um like a lot of the things that I've been through. Um and I don't say this to say that I'm more tough or resilient than anybody. Um, but I know this to be true that a lot of the things that I've experienced, a lot of people have killed themselves. A lot of people have become addicted to drugs and alcohol or some type of substance or something to cope with the pain of life. And so I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And so I think we as people sometimes when we don't know one that we need help or we don't know what the step of help toward getting help looks like is we kind of like shift things to the back of our minds and we just keep going with life. But the trauma, that's, I don't know if you all have ever read the book called The Body Keeps the Score. If you haven't,
Yep.
I highly recommend it. We can try to pretend as if the things in our lives didn't happen that happened, but it is a part of us. It is a part of us, and all it takes is the right trigger for us to be reminded that those traumatic experiences still live with us. And having those experiences that I could name in detail and spell out for you, it became um, so prevalent to me of my need for healing. Because if I didn't, even after like giving my life to the Lord um, and following Him, I I don't know that I would be here today. Like the pain that this body, this 38-year-old body has endured, um, it's it's immeasurable. It's immeasurable.
Excuse me.
So I want to ask because, well, first of all, sharing the story with us
Mhm,
and revisiting some of those moments. How are
mhm.
you feeling in real time, like right now?
Surprisingly, I'm not overcome with the bless you,
Bless you.
not overcome like with sadness. Um, there, this is usually the part of like interviews where like I might cry, or have difficulty getting through certain conversation, the certain parts of the conversation. So I feel okay right now.
That's because of
That's
us.
right. I would say that's good
I feel okay.
because
That's
you
because
are.
of us.
Yeah, you're strong, brother. So I still want to, because when people listen to this in the
Mhm.
playback, so often, um, even when people do it in introductions, they tell you everything that they are based off of their interactions and experiences, but they
Mhm.
don't really tell you who they are.
Mhm.
Like usually, mom, like people stand up if they're a mom, they'll say, "I'm a mother, I'm a teacher, I'm this, I'm that," but they don't tell you who they are. They tell you who they are in experiences. And you talked about at the beginning of your story, you talked about labels. I knew that I was different, and then
Yeah.
I was called these things. Then
Mhm.
I had this experience.
Mhm.
So I am so curious to know about what was your aha moment like when you were like, I'm not that,
Mhm.
but I am this. Because you
Mhm.
talked about when God came to your life and tell you to
Yeah.
write that book.
Yeah.
Oh, tell me about when Ronald accepted, I'm not that, but I am this. And I
Mhm.
do accept what God put in my life.
Sure.
I want to know more
Mhm.
about that strength finding
Yeah.
moment because let's be honest, when we talk about our stories about molestation, it's new to the hearer.
Uh-huh.
So we spend a lot of time safeguarding them and walking them through that experience
Sure.
that they even forget we're more than that. Because just like you said, I'm a father, I'm a musician, I'm an author. So there's so much strength that you
Mhm.
found. I just am interested in knowing what was that strength finding moment like for
It,
you?
if I can, like, honestly, it's a progressive thing.
I love it.
Like, it started when think something started to click, like when God started to like draw me. Like I
This
remember
at
when,
22 as well? Was this around 22 as well? Or was it a
yes,
little bit later? Okay.
on October 18th of 2009, I was filled with the Holy Spirit. And
Come on.
that was like the turning point of my life, like literally the turning point of my life. Like just prior to that, I was in that summer, I was like face down, like with a gun to the back of my head, on my way out to the club with some friends. And I remember the man saying, "This is about to be a homicide." And I was just like, I personally felt that my life didn't have much value. And so I pleaded with God, asking him to give me another chance. Um,
At that gunpoint.
like literally, as the gun is to the back of my head, I forgot that I was being robbed and I was talking to Jesus. And I was like, I know that in the many ways that I've lived my life that's displeasing to you, like if I die tonight, I'm pretty sure where I might end up. I was like, but if you give me another chance, I'll live for you. I'll give my life to you. And I remember, like, I don't know how long I was on the ground, but my friends, they were like, "Ron, like, get up, they're gone." And like, I was slowly getting off the ground, and it was like I was in a daze. I couldn't believe that I was still alive, that my
Alive.
brains were not blown out on the street. And so it was moments like that that reaffirmed my value, that God sees me as valuable. Like, even though I didn't have much, you know, much self-esteem or much self-worth at the time, but the many times that he spared my life from death, it showed me that maybe I'm worth something to him. And so it started to give me a desire to live. Like, I was so depressed around in those during those years.
Did you ever think about suicide during that time period?
Yeah, I did. Absolutely. I absolutely did. A few
Can I
times.
can I say I'm so glad it didn't win?
Me too.
Amen. Amen.
I'm glad you're still here.
Thank you.
I'm glad you didn't give up.
Thank you. Thank you. So I didn't know who I was. And so as I've been following the Lord, I'm learning who Ronald McCray is, the gifts and the talents that have been within me that I didn't know that I possessed, that I carried. Like, he's been unlocking things. And so that's why I say it's progressive. Like, the person that I was when I started this journey with the Lord 16 years ago is not the person that I am anymore. I'll be 40 in 2 years. That kind of hurts to say, but
Oh, you look good.
thank you.
Hey,
I'll
life
be
is
40
better
in
once
2
you
years.
get 40. Life gets better over on this side.
Uh,
what did you have to give up to get to this point where you started to uncover who you are? Like,
That's a good
what
question.
did you have to change friends? Did you have to change environment? Did you have to change
I
time and dedication?
Oh, so much. I think primarily above all those things, I had to give up expired ways of thinking about me.
I love that.
Like I had to give up the I'm not worth anything to someone, or that I have to give my body to someone to be worth love. Like in surrendering my life to the Lord, it completely like he was like, I want your mind. Like I'm coming after the way that you think about yourself, because the way that you think about yourself is less than how I think about you. And the plans and the purpose that I have for your life, it will require that you see yourself the way that I do. And so I could not see myself as a victim. As much as I wanted to hold on to that narrative and the anger like that was behind it, and the unanswered questions, and the apologies that I never received, the all the feelings that I had that was tied to that identity. He said, "That's not who you are. Like you are an overcomer. You've
Hmm.
overcome
Hmm.
so much. Like you are my son. Like I've made you new." And it took many years for me to understand that I am new. I am his. I'm not the things that people said about me. They were wrong. I was unsure about my identity for a number of years when I was that teen into early adulthood, and I was out here in the clubs and I was sleeping around and hooking up and in cars and all the
And
things.
God saved you. And God saved you while you were out there acting a fool. He
And God
saved you because he had
rescued
a purpose for you, right?
me. And if I can just
I'm
like
sorry, I don't mean to say acting a fool.
no. I was like, I just want to gently push back on the acting a fool, because I would like, I remember when I was younger, like people would call me like, or some of my friends would playfully like call me like a hoe or whore. And I'm like, and I accepted that, but I didn't know the way that I was living my life, the promiscuity was a trauma response. It was me seeking to
Hmm.
cope with the pain. Like I when I started to study like the textbook understanding and about males specifically who have experienced sexual trauma, it was like reading about myself. Like I like graduated high school by the skin of my teeth, and it wasn't because I wasn't intelligent or I couldn't grasp what was being taught, but I was skipping school and I was drinking and I was smoking weed and I was hanging out with the wrong people. I didn't have the right people in my life to push me forward. And so like I I just didn't know that. Like I thought I was living my best life. That's what I thought. Until I had that moment and God was like showing me myself. I was hurting. And there's so many people who are hurting and they've been labeled, and people have given them identities that don't belong to them.
And they're not saying anything. They're holding it in. Let me just
Mhm.
share something with you really quickly. RAIN, right? It's the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. They post that every 74 seconds, someone in the U.S. is sexually assaulted. And then what they talk about with regards to sexual assaults, listen to this. Victims of sexual assault are 4 times more likely to develop drug problems,
Mhm.
3 times more likely to develop PTSD,
Mhm.
and 4 times more likely to experience major depressive episodes. And on top of that, when they talk about individuals who've been through sexual assault that don't disclose, they're more likely to be misdiagnosed with
Mhm.
psychosis
Mhm.
or misdiagnosed with a intellectual disability.
Mhm.
It's harder to uncover the core of certain
Mhm.
behaviors when there's complex PTSD, right? Or when there's a complex situation or complex trauma. So once again, with so many people not disclosing, not finding the core of their challenge, it's easier to try and find some type of coping mechanism. Like nobody's hearing me. Like, did you ever feel like people weren't hearing you, or you just didn't speak up? Nobody
Um,
could hear your pain, or you just didn't speak up?
I don't know that it was either or. Um, because For a person to speak up, they have to know, they have to believe that their voice matters.
Mm, that's
Their
powerful.
voice,
Say that again. Say that again. That's very powerful what you just said.
for a person to speak up, they have to believe that when they do, like, their voice matters. Because a lot of people, both men, boys and girls, men and women, fear that they won't be believed when they tell someone. Or maybe they've been that kid, as I was, where my voice was not encouraged. I was kept in a child's place. And with good intentions of maybe cultivating respect between a child and a parent, subconsciously, subliminally, it can tell that child that their voice does not matter. And if you don't feel that your parents, your relatives, your environment of friends are a safe space, your church is a safe space, you're not going to speak up. I didn't know that my voice mattered until I was probably 22, and I told my spiritual father what happened to me when I was a kid, and he like broke down. I didn't know how heavy it was. I was just articulating it for the first time. I feared that before publishing my book that nobody would want to read it because of the taboo nature of the things discussed in it, from the sexual abuse, homosexuality, all the things. And I released the book, it was published, and the book has touched every continent of the world. I've
Wow.
had men from all over the world to reach out to me and say, me too. So this is a global issue that we're talking about. In the US alone, the statistic that I was last aware of is that it's 1 in 6 males that will experience sexual abuse, assault by the age of 16. But that's only what's reported. So it's probably greater than that.
Yep.
The statistics also say that it takes men at least 30 years to initially disclose that they were abused.
Wow.
That's a lot of life to live.
Wow.
That's a lot of time for a person to cope in unhealthy ways. Some people don't make it to 30 to be able to tell the story of what happened. Some of them end up in prison. Some of them don't graduate from high school. And again, they're labeled, but they don't know what happened to these boys.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was talking to a young man at the store. I'm shy. I don't usually talk to people, but somehow I wound up in this conversation. But I was talking to a young man at the store, and he was he was younger, and he had an older boyfriend, right? And he said he didn't like being gay. He said, but his older boyfriend told him, if you keep doing it, it will eventually become normal. So now you have this young, frail man who's trying to find normalcy, right? And so he continues to do something that he doesn't enjoy because, I mean, he's told that it will eventually get better. And guess what? He left his family and friends in the process because this is where he believed he was supposed to be. So you have so many people who are going through these challenges with regards to what is my identity. You know, some medications will cause asexuality. So if you're a 10-year-old and you're at the park, and your friends are like, and you're a boy and your friends are like, hey, look at that girl, da, 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 and you don't say you like that girl, then, you must be gay. And the last thing I'll tell you is I was talking to this guy, and he was saying he's like works for some very big salon in DC. And he said it's a very big black salon. You'll know the name of it. I just can't remember the name of it right now. But he was saying to me, he said, sometimes you have to fake gay so that you can get clients, because women who come into the store or come into the salon, they'll pay more money or they'll go to someone who's gay versus someone who's straight. So if you have to kind of learn the culture to make sure that you keep clients and get clients. So there's a lot of confusion that's going on. I mean, you're talking about that 30-year gap of sexual assault, but there's so many other things that are going along where people think that it's a relationship. People may think that it's a career opportunity. There are different reasons why people may get stuck in that trap. and not know how to get out. So when you were in that trap, what did you do to get out? Because even though you're saying that you had this encounter with God and you heard from him, when you leave that encounter, when you leave that environment, you're going back to the same exact friends you had 5 minutes ago. You're in the same exact environment, the same exact surrounding. How did you step out of it into something different? Because that takes a bold stance.
Well, two questions for you. When you say trap, what are you defining as trap?
In a place where you may not want to be.
Okay.
But you've kind of normalized, or the people around you have normalized it. They've labeled you to a point where you've kind of accepted the label, whether or not it's true.
I think I would say if anything was a trap, it was the trap of, and it started like at an early age of me being labeled and identified. And I didn't have because of like addiction, I didn't really have my father in my life to speak identity into me. I was hungry for it. I was hungry for direction, for guidance, for someone to see me, someone to speak into me, someone to love me. And so even though people were speaking lies over me, in a sense, it was like, oh, you're helping me learn who I am. Even though I didn't understand what those labels were, gay and all the things, I had a very limited understanding of what that meant. But it felt like, oh, this makes sense in the context of what I feel. And so making the decision to I agreed with it at maybe the age of 16. I said, I'm gonna just try this out for 6 months. That's what I said. I'm gonna try it out for 6 months. And 6 months turned into 6 years. When I say try this out, I mean like being in relationships with men. So the trap was I didn't know who I was. That was the trap. I needed someone objectively outside of myself to tell me the truth about who Ronald McCray is and who he's not.
If they told you, would you listen?
I listened when God told me. I believed him.
And I guess it's a twofer because I guess she called it a trap, but it's also intersectionality. We don't discuss intersectionality in men often. Usually when intersectionality occurs, it's usually with women. And so we don't talk about the social constructs that prohibit men from even speaking up against sexual abuse, sexual assault, and even domestic violence. Like I was shocked to know the limited amount of the limited amount of research around psychological abuse. But people can say psychological abuse leads to physical abuse, but we have all of these statistics even around, like even when we talk about domestic violence, we have so much around physical abuse, but we have very little about the psychological abuse that may have occurred and may have been there presently before it became physical. And the same thing happens when we start talking about men and being fluid. The way that victimhood is looked is usually genderized, meaning so when we think about victim, it usually is assigned to a feminine trait, not a masculine trait, not one that's empowering. So men have to fight through these constructs, which we talk about. There's sometimes a traps because sometimes they make decisions constructorily because standing on your own feet may go against whatever that societal norm and culture may be. And so sometimes we're forced into making decisions. Let's flip it. Just like women, if you get pregnant, you need to marry the man. Sometimes men are forced to believe that their counterpart are women. Get you a woman that's going to make you feel right. So I'm wild and I'm doing these things because I don't have a woman in my life. So therefore, I don't have accountability. So I need somebody to come and tell me and fix me. Right. So we don't talk about how these intersectionality viewpoints creates a trap where we're now stuck in who am I versus who I'm expected to be versus who I am created to be.
That part.
And so those three things are constantly at war.
Correct.
And unfortunately, it's not just what you see, it's what other people see. Like you could be, it's so funny, like we will give a Little Richard, a Michael Jackson, a Prince, a Rick James, their flowers.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't do the same thing to the Michael Jacksons, the Rick Jameses, that are in our everyday life.
Mm.
We beat them down until they become so successful that we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing about Prince, like I was like, why people hate Prince? I mean, love Prince but hate Michael. And Michael ain't even wearing high heels and blouses. And so my mind couldn't understand that. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But people would identify like, how do we know gay is bad, but gay never had a true image?
Mm-hmm.
How did I know my molestation was bad?
Mm-hmm.
Because I never was told what I should do, what I should experience. So it's just so interesting hearing us talk about this. And I want to give you this because we don't talk about the complexities of even healing.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that we talk about healing as if it's a singular event.
Right.
We don't talk about healing like it's a lifestyle.
Right.
So I love the fact that you're talking about we're progressing towards that. And you have a right to change your mind and your viewpoint as you become more and more aware in healing.
Sure.
And it seemed like your foundational point was around 22.
Yeah.
22 is when you started to find your footing.
Mm-hmm.
So what I like to help people with, so technically you're not 38 at being yourself. It's not 38 years of being yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It started at 22.
Mm-hmm.
So you're still growing and developing into who you are. And
Right.
so who you are on this podcast, for anybody reading it, he may say something today and he have every right to change, evolve, and grow. He can change his mind at any point, and you can't hold him to it because he has every right to say, that's what I thought then, but this is where I'm going and this is who I am now. And I feel like sometimes we're trapped and bound by these constructs, and it hinders us from being our best selves because they take away our permission to change or evolve, to change our minds or evolve. That's all. It was like, it was so many things you were saying that were so powerful that I think that people don't sometimes connect the dots. At 6, you were told you was a sissy, you was a punk, you knew you was different, and you didn't know what this different was. So it must be sissy and punk is what made me different.
Right.
And then you was like, I wasn't getting attention, but the attention that I was getting was exploitative. So I like the attention, which is probably why I like being on stage. I like entertainment. I like that, but I like good attention, not bad attention.
Right.
But if nobody's helping you, you have to go through an explorative phase to figure out, do I like this and do I not like this? And then the other complexity is this acceptable to society?
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't even have a true sounding board until 22 because your life was this complexity. And there's so many people that's listening to this who have experienced complex lives.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't tell people everything. I feel like that's so powerful. Yes, sir.
My life is still very complex.
Amen to that, brother.
Understanding myself is still complex. Like whenever I like accept an invitation to a podcast or on a television show or whatever, I am genuinely authentic. I do not pretend as if I am perfect, that I don't have feelings and thoughts that are contrary to God's word. I'm a very flawed human being. And at this juncture of my life, like I'm entering into it seems like a time of my life where like God is demanding some like serious introspection of my heart. Like he wants to address the hard questions that I have, the things that I'm angry with him about. He's like, don't hold that back. Give that to me. Like, that's what relationship is about. Like, he's not intimidated by us being upset with him, us having questions, us having doubts. I don't want to stay in that space consistently, but in a relationship, having hard conversations are part of a relationship. And so I'm having to sit with myself about like thoughts that I have and feelings that I have and upsets that I have. So I'm still very much discovering Ronald Joseph McCray in the very complex nature of my existence. I wish it was simple.
That's what I love. It's not simple. It's very complicated. And I think we need to, because people give us such linear diagnoses or linear approaches, and it's
Because that's what
complicated.
they feel comfortable with.
Right.
You have to know who your audience is. That's why in the beginning I was talking about being with agile people. It's
I
you
love
have
it.
to realize that our parents grew up in very, very, very restrictive environments, right? And it was either A or B. And I tell people all the time, my grandfather was a Pentecostal pastor, and either you did this or you were going to hell. It was just either A or B. And with that being said, I love the fact that you were saying that you're growing deeper in your relationship with Christ, because when people are going through whatever the situation is, we all go through something tough. That enables us to lean closer to, lean on God and develop a closer relationship with Christ. So everybody goes through something tough, but not everybody develops the deeper relationship that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned earlier about the suicide, I haven't mentioned this, but a couple of years ago, I did a report, and over a 10-year time span, there was a 60% increase. It was like, I don't know, maybe like 2000. It was a 10-year time span, 7 to 10-year time span, but there was a 60% increase in suicide amongst African-American males between the ages of 10 and 17. So somewhere along the way, people are not finding the validation in their voice. They're not finding the support that they need, mm-hmm. right? To move forward. They're not able to find that self-awareness, whatever it is. So when you talk about your deeper relationship with Christ, and how it was pivotal for you, that is something that a lot of people are looking for. They're looking for that opportunity to find a deeper relationship, but they don't know who it may be. They may think that it's a man, a woman, a dog, a cat, or whatever. How did you know that your pivotal person was God? Were you in church at an early age and you had a foundation in Christ, and then now you're coming back to him? How did it come about? And then also, not only how did it come about, how did you get the continued support? Because once again, like I said, you were in one environment, mm-hmm. and you transitioned to another environment, right?
Mm-hmm. Before he answered that, KJ, I got to go pick up my daughter. I done lost track of time.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Please keep this conversation going because it's very important.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Ann.
Thank you. We got to do a round two because I got a lot of questions.
Mr. Ann, yeah, we're going to actually close up because I really, what Dwayne's bringing to the table is so powerful. But if you could just in your closing comment.
Let him answer that question, and I'm gonna log off because I want to see it. I'm sorry.
So how I knew that God was the pivotal character person of my life, I was raised in the church. I was raised in the Pentecostal church. So I knew of God like observationally. I've heard him talked about and espoused from scripture, but I didn't know him like relationally, personally. Like I read some of the stories in the Bible and was taught them in Sunday school and vacation Bible class, but I never had an encounter with this God for myself until he started to pursue me in my latter teen years and early like 20s, leading to me surrendering my life to him. That required me to like surrender takes a lot of trust. Like
you lost trust. You based on what you're going through, you had lost trust in some people.
I had lost trust in God too, because I felt like, well, why should I trust you if you allowed this to happen to me? You could have stopped the many times that I was abused from happening, but you didn't. I was angry with him for a long time.
How did you express that anger? So if you had all that anger built up inside of you, did you take it out on other people around you? Did you take it out on yourself? Like, how did you express the anger and frustration?
Self-destructive habits. Yeah, self-destructive habits. The drinking, the smoking, the promiscuity, the rebellion against male leadership. It was all of those things. Of how I express it. I stopped.
Did you feel guilty afterwards?
No.
Any type of remorse?
No. Mm-mm. I wouldn't say remorse was something that I felt, regret, maybe sometimes, because the thing, and I'll speak from experience because I don't know what some of these listeners' experiences are, so I won't speak categorically. For me, promiscuity was fun at first. I felt like I was in control until I realized that I wasn't in control. And I felt like my reward for promiscuity was like love and acceptance and validation. But there was, it really was never that. I never received those things. And I started to realize that what I'm in this for, what I'm using my body to do, I'm not accomplishing that mission. And it made me feel like maybe I'm really not worth anything. Like, I'm not getting the love that I desire from this. And so it led to increased feelings of depression and anxiety, and suicidal thoughts and attempts. So that's how I expressed the anger. And that was the result of the anger as well. And so God came knocking on the door of my heart and he was like, hey, I love you. I know that you think that you are an abomination, but you're my son and I'm calling you unto myself and have a better life for you. I remember standing I was drunk in a gay nightclub in Baltimore. It's called The Paradox. The Paradox is no longer around. So if you look it up, you're not going to find it. And this was probably the first time I heard God speak to me. He said, I have so much better in store for you. I have so much better in store for you.
And you trusted him.
I did. Maybe just like Peter and James and John and the rest of the apostles. He said, follow me. And I never understood. I was like, why would y'all follow him? You didn't know him. Why would you give up your livelihoods and your lives to follow this man? But it's something about when the voice of God speaks to you, it's the essence of who you are, your soul, your spirit, it responds. We are designed for worship. We are designed for him. And so when his voice speaks to us, there is a response. And it led to me repenting and turning my life around and giving my life to him. So I always had that anchor. Even when I was out doing things that I know God wasn't pleased with, I knew that he was loving. I've heard him described as loving. I heard him described as someone who's caring, who cares for us, that we can bring the heaviness, the burdens of life to and give it to him in exchange for peace. Like I had the word in me. All I needed was the experience. And just like for those of us who know the word, when Saul was on his way in Acts chapter 9 to persecute the Christians, and he was like knocked off of his beast and blindness, and he hears the voice and, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And he responds, who are you, Lord? I had that experience myself where I was knocked off of my proverbial beast, the high horse of my life, of the idolatry of my life. And I was forced to reckon with my creator. And I believed him to be trustworthy. And 16 years later, walking with him, I don't regret the decision. Life has not been perfect by any means. It wasn't an invitation to perfection, but I would not change this life for what I had before, which really wasn't anything.
I want to say something. I know you're not minimizing it in any way, but your acceptance of Christ and your trust in him is so much more than you can ever imagine. And I thank you for sharing your story. As a teacher, a couple of students said to me, they couldn't wait to die and go to hell. And they were talking about how they can't wait to go to hell because, their skin's going to peel. It's going to be so hot until their skin's going to fall off them and all this other kind of stuff. And they were talking about it in great depth. They had a deep study of what hell was. And I said, well, let me ask them. I said, have you ever been to church? Do you know about God? And they're like, oh yeah, we go to church every Sunday with our grandmother. And then they started to tell me the stories of Christ and stories from the Bible in great detail. The difference was there was a passion. There was a great passion and a sense of, a desirous sense when they were talking about hell versus heaven. And so as you convey your story, I can hear the depth and I can hear the opportunity for Christ. But I will say that once again, that was a clear choice. And a lot of people, kids are struggling with that choice because they've learned the principles of religion, but maybe not have learned the relationship of religion. And so if there's a way we can start to shift back to more relationships versus just rhetoric, I think it could be a powerful experience. I promote self-awareness every chance I can, because as you learn to love yourself, you are availing yourself to deeper relationships, right? So as we realize how awesome we are, I don't have to compete with my neighbor for, if I know that I'm a good dancer, I don't have to compete with my neighbor for dancing. I'm competing with myself to be a better dancer. And sometimes what happens is we miss that opportunity to reach excellence because we're so busy trying to compete with others. So, and that comes from a relationship with Christ, because Christ tells you how beautiful you are and and reminds you of your unique gifts. And some kids don't know that. So once again, with your self-awareness story and your depth and your commitment and your passion, you're doing something powerful, doing something amazing that will inspire yourself as others. And you know that. I will ask you two last questions. One, in just brief sentences, define good help, define bad help, define no help. And
Good
then
help.
number two is give us closing words to leave with. Just closing words.
Good help. Good help. I'm struggling to give language. I think good help can look like people willing to journey alongside with you. Nobody's going to have all the answers. So people who are willing to journey with you. Good help looks like maybe friends and family holding you accountable as best they can, coupled with your willingness to heal because they want you to be better. Bad help, enablers, people who contribute to the self-destructive patterns of your life, who don't challenge you to be better, who pull you down further. No help, people that talk at you but never extend a hand to help you. People that pull you down but never extend the hand to pull you up. Closing words. I want to rewind into the conversation, and I want to say that because it can be easily misconstrued by what we were discussing around like abuse and like sexuality or homosexuality, I would just like to make it clear that not every gay person or a person who experiences same-sex attraction have been sexually abused. And also, and I know we're going to have a part two. I feel in my spirit. There's so much more to unpack and discuss. I believe that the young people who have the obsession with hell, although they may have been in church and they, maybe they know the word of God and have studied it. They're atheists that know the word of God better than most Christians do. And I would dare to say that those young people just have not experienced the authentic love of God, because there's no way that they could desire to be apart from him for eternity once they've experienced his love. And my prayer is that they will have that encounter with him, and that every listener would have that encounter too, because I promise you, if you yield, we talked a lot about surrender. If you surrender to God, I promise you, it won't make life perfect. But I can assure you from my own life experience that it is worth it. Jesus is worth it. He's worth giving up and forsaking all to follow after.
Wow. Powerful words. Yes. It's nothing like a relationship with God to get you through whatever you're going through. I just wanted to leave with a couple of things. One, if you are going through, there are a couple of things that they recommend through a tough, challenging situation with regards to sexual assault. If you are in immediate danger, call 911. If it's danger, you have questions, you're curious, you can also call the local police department. But if you call the local police department, I'm sorry, there's the number for RAIN. You need to find that number because I said I was going to give that number. Hold on one second. It's in here. Oh shoot, I can't find it. I'll find it in 2 seconds. Oh, the number for RAIN, because you have to be careful because sometimes you'll call and they will give you the wrong number, believe it or not, or there'll be the wrong number on the website. But the number for RAIN is 800-656-4673, and I'll repeat that afterwards. But you can always call RAIN for more information. You can call your local police department. If you call the local police department and you make a report, if you are under age 18, there's something called an unrestricted report, which means that your report will go to the police department. And if you are above 18, you can actually go to a rape crisis center and you can give a restricted report, meaning that others won't have access to it. And then the third thing is definitely go to a medical center to get checked. If there's any type of sexual assault, you want to make sure that there are not more complications that you're not aware of. When you are finding someone to talk to, a couple of things that you can look for, it's called disclosing. It's your story. You have an opportunity to share or not share. But when you're looking for the right person to disclose to, a couple of things to think about. One, actually five. One, do you feel the listeners will be supportive? Two, have they been supportive in the past? Do you have a past history with them? Number three, have you heard them judge or make negative comments about people who have actually survived abuse? Number four, have they disclosed any type of sexual assault to you? And then number five, do they know you're a perpetrator and they might disclose or question or ask the perpetrator for their perspective or their story, which may conflict with your story. So once again, on the Moving Forward podcast, our goal is to provide stories of triumph, how people have overcome certain challenges, adversities, what they use to strengthen them to make the end game, to make it through to the end game. And as Ronald has mentioned, change is not an instantaneous thing. It is a gradual thing. It is a growth thing. But it takes a desire for change. It takes a belief in self. It takes just wanting to have a purpose and a passion to make the change to move forward. So once again, I want to thank you so much for Ronald, for everything that you've provided tonight, Ronald. And of course, my brother from another mother, Dwayne Garnett, who's just phenomenal in every single way. Thank you so much for the insight that you're sharing, and thank you for opening the door. I know that you have an Instagram page or a website page where people can contact you to find out a little bit more about you and find out where your book is. What is that information you'd like to share?
So my Instagram is I am Ron J. McCray. I am Ron J. McCray. And Facebook is exactly as my name banner is, Ronald J. McCray. Just to add one more thing, y'all get a therapist. Get a therapist. Find you a good therapist.
And not all therapists are good, right? You got to find the right therapist, right?
The right therapist, right?
Right, because different people have different practices and different norms, and their norm may not be your norm.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
So, but anyway, once again, Ronald, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your powerful testimony, and always extending hope. On the Moving Forward podcast, Stories of Triumph. Remember, this is where we give stories and we help individuals uncover, empower, and evolve. Take care. Hold on, let's see. Did it end? I don't know.
You're still live.
What am I doing? Oh, wait, here we go.